What's up? As you might know by now, blockchain has been trending in the past couple years, and more businesses are starting to implement this technology to improve their operations. We've seen many applications of blockchain in a wide range of industries, but what will the impact of blockchain be in the long term? How will blockchain disrupt many industries, and how will blockchain change your life? To know that, let's go back to the beginning. Back in time, before we had discovered coal and machinery, business was mostly about farming. But soon, this way of living was disrupted by the arrival of more machinery that drastically decreased the need for human workforce in farms. That led to massive population movements from the countrysides to the cities. In the cities, we saw the number of factories increase exponentially, and we in turn saw an increase in production of machines and tools. Because of this first industrial revolution characterized by the use of steam engines, we rapidly saw new innovations come from nowhere that made humans work even faster and more efficiently. We entered the second industrial revolution. The second industrial revolution was characterized by the arrival of electricity, mass production, and division labor in the late 1800s. This led to many innovations in the field of communication with tools, for example, like the telegraph. All this great innovation from the late 1800s to World War I led to the industrial revolution closest to us and the one that had the biggest impact on our lives, the digital revolution. The digital revolution is the shift from mechanical and analog electronic technology to digital technologies. It began in the later half of the 20th century with the adoption and proliferation of digital computers and digital record keeping.
In the beginning, the people who worked with computers were considered magicians. Abracadabra!
This phase changed everything for millions of businesses around the world. We started to see a major increase in communication speed, but it also allowed for more automation, removing the need for human intervention in a lot of fields.
Imagine, if you will, sitting down to your morning coffee, turning on your home computer to read the day's newspaper. Well, it's not as far-fetched as it may seem.
We can say that the arrival of the internet to the masses is the most determinant event of this digital revolution. The internet simply changed it all. We now have social networks that allow anybody to communicate and have a voice. We now have better access to information, better access to money, and better access to education than ever before. We all know the impact the internet had on our lives, but most people don't know that it's just the beginning of this revolution. AI is taking over the world right now, and tools like ChatGPT made millions of people realize that AI will soon be able to do more than human beings and even better than us. And of course, blockchain also has come around, and this technology has many developments coming our way that will also participate in shaping the future of our world, just like the internet did. Which brings us to our next point. But let's first understand the real origins of blockchain. Blockchain has been trending only since the creation of Bitcoin in 2009, but the truth is that its concept existed way before. In fact, the first time that someone introduced the concept of securing data thanks to cryptography, the same way existing blockchains are doing it right now, was in 1991. Although digital innovation has brought us a lot of progress in our lives in the 90s, some people soon realized that computers could just be better. The biggest problem was the storing of data. Computers in the 90s were really rudimentary compared to what we have right now, and it was very easy to tamper with important information in a database, for example. Like, way too easy. Traditional methods of storing digital data, such as saving it on a computer computer's hard drive or backing it up to a removable storage device were vulnerable to tampering and did not provide a way to prove the integrity of the data. Which means, for example, that if your birth certificate was stored on a computer in the 90s, someone could just come in and change your name to Hugh Jass if they wanted to. And that is not cool. And they could do that simply because these methods of storage mainly relied on a single entity, such as a government agency or private company, which made them susceptible to tampering or manipulation of data. But because we knew that data, especially important data like legal contracts, financial records, and medical information, was ultimately going to be stored digitally for the rest of our lives, someone had to find a way to fix this. And this someone were Stuart Haber, an American cryptographer and computer scientist, and W. Scott Tornetta, an American physicist and scientific researcher. Both of them wrote and published a paper addressing the storage issue called How to Timestamp a Digital Document. For cryptography OGs, this document is considered to be one of the most important papers in the development of cryptocurrencies. Yet, you just learned about it, didn't you? The main points that were made in this paper are these. The authors proposed a method for timestamping digital documents, which is a way to prove that a document existed at a certain point in time. They use a hash function to create a unique fingerprint of the document, which is then added to a chain of previous fingerprints in a public document. This creates a chain of custody for the document, where each link in the chain is linked to the previous one using the hash function. The authors conclude by stating that their proposed method can be used to timestamp any digital documents, including contracts, legal documents, and more. And that is exactly the interesting part. We can easily make a parallel between this paper and current blockchains like Bitcoin. Although Bitcoin was mainly focused on financial transactions, it's still data, so the concept stays the same. In the Bitcoin white paper, Satoshi Nakamoto describes the problems of double spending, which is the issue of digital currency where the same digital token can be spent multiple times, the need for a decentralized system because traditional financial systems rely on a central authority which can be prone to fraud or censorship, and finally, the problem of electronic transactions. Electronic transactions are typically not as secure as physical transactions and can be subject to fraud or hacking. And guess what? The solution for fixing all these problems was blockchain. So the two papers, How to Timestamp a Digital Document and the Bitcoin white paper, clearly have the same thing they want to fix, which is the storage of data. The main problem described in the two papers is how to make the data authentic in a way that we know this data has not been tampered with. Satoshi described the usage of a digital ledger that would be able to store transactions. Let's compare Satoshi's digital ledger to a paper ledger in which you just write every transaction that happens. Satoshi's digital ledger would have a unique way of storing data by stacking a group of transactions together into a block. In that case, we can take that block and compare it to a single page of our paper ledger. Each block of this digital ledger will have a unique access code attached to it that relies on the data that is contained inside our current block. Now, the best part of that is that each block of our ledger also contains the access code of the previous block. What this all means in plain English is that, let's say I have a book that contains all the birth records of London. Now, let's imagine that inside that book, we have a page where the access code is chicken. Whenever the data of our page changes, even the slightest change, the access code of that page will also change. So if I go in that page and I decide to change the name of someone to Hugh Jass, which by the way is really not cool, the access code will not be chicken anymore, but will change to say bread, which means that this page of our book is not valid anymore. And because the next page also has the access code of the previous page in its its data, and thus the slightest change will change the access code of the current page. That means that the access code of the current page will also change, which in turn is going to change the access code of the next page, etc. And that activates a chain of code changing that invalidates our entire book. And that is exactly how blockchain manages to make data secure and unchangeable. That's basically the simplified version of how blockchain works. So now that's super cool, but how does it affect traditional industries in our lives? As you might have understood it by now, blockchain is crucial for storing data without the risk of altered information. So what will be the impact of this on this? We can guess that any industry that uses data to offer services will be disrupted in a way that is actually productive. So industries like healthcare, where we need to keep your data to follow your medical progress; finance, where your financial status needs to constantly be updated based on your past transactions; insurance, where we need to keep track of your past accidents or contributions; or even art, where we need to keep track of the origins of an art piece in a way that we can retrace the art piece all the way to its first owner. All these industries will most likely start using blockchain technology at some point. Not to be cool, but just to make everything simpler and safer for them. Blockchain as we know it today is starting to be used by businesses, but its potential is still completely unknown by many businesses and even entire industries. So yes, some universities started to give academic certifications to their students using blockchain through NFTs. Some banks are starting to understand the importance of cryptocurrency for their own survival, but most of these industries are completely untapped, and that's where you as an entrepreneur or a business owner can have an impact. The most important features of blockchain technology is its ability to provide security and transparency. And this is of public utility in many fields. Entrepreneurs can take advantage of it by developing solutions that leverage blockchain to enhance security and transparency in various industries and in fields that affect all of us. One example of this is the area of voting systems. Blockchain technology could be used to create a secure and transparent voting system that allows for the verification of voter identity and the prevention of fraud. Entrepreneurs can build platforms that use blockchain technology to create secure voting systems for political elections, corporate governance, and even community voting. This could be crucial for countries where corruption is a recurrent topic. Another area where blockchain can be used is in identity verification. Blockchain could be used to create a secure digital identity verification system that allows for the verification of identity and the prevention of fraud. Entrepreneurs can build platforms that use blockchain technology to create secure digital identity verification systems with the concept of DIDs, for example. DIDs are simply tokens that are on the blockchain that basically hold all of your personal information, and that makes the verification of your identity simpler and faster. And this could be used for many industries like banking, insurance, healthcare, and government services. Another area where blockchain can be used, and this one is actually huge, is in medical record storage. Blockchain could be used to create a secure and transparent medical record storage system that allows for the storage and sharing of medical records while ensuring the privacy and security of patient data. I say that this one was huge, and that is because according to Rose Koppel, a leading academic in the world of health IT, about 70% of medical records have wrong information. This is just a huge number, and wrong medical record leads to wrong medical diagnosis, which in turn can lead to death. Entrepreneurs can build platforms that use blockchain technology to create secure medical record storage systems for healthcare providers and insurance companies, for example. And perhaps we can reduce the number of wrong medical records by a lot and potentially save lives. The truth is that blockchain could be applied to thousands of areas in business that would allow us to live in a world with more transparency and where we can really trust our data sources. And this world, my friend, you and I have to build it. That's the message of this video.